Good afternoon, everyone. It is now 2:33 and we are live. Thank you all for joining us for today's presentation. My name is Jaleesa with Legal Aid of North Carolina's Helpline. Today we have David Cadigan presenting for us. If you are unfamiliar with the format of this event, David is going to review a PowerPoint presentation. At the end of the presentation, we'll have a question and answer session. If at any point during the presentation you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A box on Zoom or the comment section on Facebook. Please remember that this is a public forum and legal aid is not representing you at this time. David will go over this in more detail, but please remember to keep your questions as general as possible, as we cannot provide any legal advice specific to your individual situation. The session will end when there are no more questions, and regardless of where we are, we will have a hard stop at 4:30 p.m. With all that being said, I'm going to pass it over to David to get us started.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining this, I guess it's a lunch and learn and stream, whatever, but it's on how to get a simple divorce. So I am kind of technologically challenged, as you probably see looking at my mug. But I'm going to go through the slides that they've presented, and it explains what the process for a simple divorce is. So you can just bear with me 1 minute. Okay, so simple, listen and learn. That's what we're calling this. So who we are. This is Legal Aid is a statewide nonprofit law firm that provides free legal services and civil matters to low-income people in order to ensure equal access to justice. There are some caveats to that. We are not allowed to represent citizens who are undocumented, people who are here without papers, might have overextended a work visa or a student visa and remained in North Carolina. We are not allowed to provide them legal services unless they are victims of domestic abuse or victims of trafficking. Also, our income parameters that we are where we catch our clients, and they have to fall below 187.5% of the poverty level. Again, unless you're a victim of domestic violence or trafficking, a lot of times individuals in those situations don't have access to money, even though they could be on paper wealthy. Their abuser may control all the funds, and we make exceptions in those cases. But we're not going to be talking about DV here, hopefully.
David, I'm sorry to interrupt. It looks
Yeah.
like we can only see the first slide. We can't see
Yes.
anything. Mm-hmm.
I'm whipping around here like it's nobody's business. All right, let me just. How about now?
Yes, we're on
Okay.
slide 3. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So that was slide 3. This is what we do. We do housing, employment, education, domestic violence work, which I touched on, disaster relief, consumer issues, Medicare and Medicaid, healthcare signups, government benefits. Again, that would be Medicare and Medicaid, unemployment, veterans legal issues, human trafficking, and then immigration issues. We provide equal access to justice, and here on this slide, if you can read it, it's kind of messed up, but if you need help beyond the clinic, you can call 866-219-5262, or you can go to our website at legalaidnc.org. Wait a minute, this is okay. About this presentation, we got to disclaim the fact that we are not your attorneys. Like it was said at the beginning of the presentation by our host, this is strictly for information only, and it can guide you to how you can prepare your own pro se pleadings in a divorce claim. We are not representing you, and we are not anyways going to be involved in your divorce case. A lot of times when you go to court, the judges will question you is where you got the paperwork and things like that. And sometimes, depending on where you're at, we have one particular judicial district and one judge who is no longer there. Unfortunately, he got promoted to the Superior Court. But, anytime there was the least bit wrong with your pleadings, he would just kick it back and not even tell you why. What we'll review today is making sure that a civil divorce is the right thing for you, how to gather your information, fill out the form, methods for filing the forms, and getting the actual judgment signed. Question number one is simple divorce right for you? So in simple divorce, it requires that you or your spouse lived in the state of North Carolina for at least 6 months on the date that you file the simple divorce. So that means 6 months prior. So if you're going to file in January, you should have moved to North Carolina and been living here since the previous June. And if you have to be separate and apart, meaning that you had to have separate domiciles. You had to be living separate and apart in different buildings, in different domiciles. You can't say, well, I'm in the front bedroom, she's in the back bedroom. What in Chicago we would call that, which is where I'm from, we'd call that the old Irish divorce, where Patrick is on the sofa and his wife Maura is in the bedroom. They have very little contact to each other, but they're still married. That would work in some states, but it does not work in North Carolina. One thing to remember about simple divorce is if it's right for you, and that's what this slide touches on. The entry of a divorce judgment will affect your rights to property division. So that would be equitable distribution and spousal support. That would be post-separation support and alimony that equals your money. If any of those things are your concern, this is not the right tool for you. You should contact a regular family law attorney. If you want to divide property, money, or you want to seek support or alimony from your spouse, you should speak to an attorney before you file anything. A simple divorce does not have any impact on your custody rights, and it does not have any impact on your child support. However, if you do get divorced, or you get divorced from your spouse files divorce from you and just figure, well, I'm not going to answer it. But then, you're living in Murphy and he has the oceanfront property in Cape Hatteras. You may want to make sure that you contact a lawyer to see if getting a simple divorce is going to affect your property rights. You need to gather the information that you will need. So the information about you, before you start, you'll need your full legal name, your address, your marriage license if you have it, your children's full names and birth dates if you share children with your spouse, and the location of the clerk of court in the county where you plan to file. And for your spouse, you need to know his full legal name, his current address, and his military status, if he's ever served, if he's active, inactive in the military. All the things you'll need: a printer, a way to take files to be printed out somewhere, location and payment for a notary public, and locations of a post office close to the clerk of court. All right, 2 ways to file. They put a red line to this, but we're going to go through the North Carolina guide and file. Right now, there are 62 counties in North Carolina where you can't take paperwork to the clerk of court and have them file it for you. Everything has to be done online. Then you have to, get all your services, and all that is done electronically. Nothing is done through the clerk's office like it used to be. And as is the end of the month, there will be 11 more counties added to what they call the e-file system. in North Carolina, which will mean almost 3/4 of our counties, 73 of our 100 counties will be all online. So the North Carolina Guidance File is a 1-hour survey that gathers all of your information and fills the forms for you. The interview will be shorter if you have all your information ready. You print the forms when you're done, and then you take it to the clerk of court. eCourts is now available. Guidance File is a free online service to help users prepare for court documents to file for certain types of cases, answer online questions to prepare the case filing, can automatically create legal documents for free, and you can print the documents to file with the court. It's free to use. You can stop and start as needed. You can print all your forms you need at the end of filing with the clerk of court. And here is the web address for Guidance File, or you can just go to nccourts.gov. That's this part right here in the web address. nccourts.gov is the website for the court, and that's where you get all your forms. Anyways, this is a simple walkthrough of filing a divorce on NC Guidance File in this fictitious case of Blue Blood versus Blue Blood. All right. You can also download the forms at that same address that I mentioned. These are the forms that you'll need. You'll need a domestic civil action cover sheet. You'll need the complaint form, and you can find this at legalaidnc.org. That is the one thing that we will provide. Then you need the ALC CV 100. That's the civil summons form. You need the ALC CV 750, the civil action cover sheet. You need the ALC G 250, service member civil relief affidavit. That's to determine whether or not your spouse has served, is serving, or has never served. Optional if you are tied on funds, if you collect food stamps, if you collect, if you are getting Medicaid or Medicare, you may qualify as an indigent, and you may need these two forms, ALC G106, which is the petition to proceed as an indigent. And depending on the county you are in, although we serve 10 counties here out of the Greenville office, almost all of them, unless you're represented by legal aid, they require the affidavit of indigency. And then a lot of times every court has local forms in terms of calendar requests and things like that to get it set. You need to call the clerks and ask them if they have any local forms that you may need to know as you're ready to file your pro se filing. I'm going to try and enlarge this some more. So, all right. So ready, set, file. You are now ready to file if you have the following. You need 3 copies of the complaint, 3 copies of the civil action cover sheet, civil summons. Some counties still require 2 copies of the civil summonses to be printed on yellow paper. Check with your county to see if they still require that. You need the Civil Service Member Civil Relief Act affidavit, 3 copies, and then a petition to proceed as an indigent. You want 2 copies of that. Make sure you don't sign anything early. Remember to make sure that you have the necessary numbers of copies and that all documents are signed in front of a notary when required. Go to the clerk of court in your county and hand in the paperwork. The clerk will file stamp the paperwork, assign the second half of the CVD number, and then hand the extra copies back to you. Serving the defendant. Can't get this larger. Ways to serve. There's 3 different ways to serve. Actually, there's more, but the sheriff is the common way. When you get the paperwork to the sheriff, a lot of times the sheriffs have a fee for that. You'll have to contact your specific county sheriff to see what their fees are. You can do it by certified mail. Make sure you ask for a return receipt requested, or you get the green card back because you will need that to prove that the person has served, or publication. And the publication is a little more difficult. It's a little more pricey because you have to do it in paper, and there's certain things that you have to do. In addition to certified mail, you can also serve them by FedEx or priority service, or or through any type of those deliveries like a DHL. Those are called authorized delivery services. It's just that you need to put the information that you get, the receipts and stuff like that, when you do your affidavit to prove that you had served. So serve. This is how you do it. This is what you do with the sheriff. Sometimes this process can be done at the clerk's office. You go to the sheriff's department and ask for civil process. You hand them one complaint and 2 civil summonses. Okay, there's a $30 service fee unless your filing fee is waived. The deputy who serves the defendant will note the date and time on the back of the summons and will send it back to the clerk. You can call the sheriff's department to find out when the defendant got served, and you'll need to know the date the defendant was served. That's very important in your pleading. Certified mail. You place one complaint and 1 civil summons in an envelope and take it to the post office. Fill out the green card with the defendant's name and address for certified mail and pay the postal fee. Note the green card will come back to you with the defendant's signature and date the envelope was received. You got to keep the date the defendant was served as indicated on the green card. Shoot. Excuse me. Okay. All right. Affidavit of return of service by certified mail. This is an AOC form. After the green card comes back, fill out the affidavit for certified mail. This must be signed in front of a notary. You attach the green card to the affidavit of certified mail, and then you take that to the clerk's office for filing along with the summonses. Acceptance of service. If your spouse, if you're fairly amicable, you can hand the complaint and civil summons to your spouse, and they must be willing to sign the acceptance of the service affidavit in front of a notary. And then you take the acceptance of service affidavit to the clerk along with the civil summons. You got to keep records of the dates the defendant was served as indicated by the date the affidavit was signed by the defendant. Publication is a means of last resort. You must use reasonable means to find the defendant first. The first step would be attempting service by sheriff or certified mail to the last known address of the defendant, doing an internet search, contacting friends and families of your spouse, DMV information, or private investigators. You should contact the clerk to see if there's any other requirements that they need in that county. I'm sorry, it keeps before using publication. Entry of judgment. This is what trips up a lot of people. You have to have your own judgment typed up and brought to court. Ways to have divorce entered. Judgment of absolute divorce before the clerk. In the 10 counties we serve here in Eastern North Carolina, I only know of one clerk that will do this. Most clerks don't. So another way is to have uncontested testimonial divorce before the judge. And the procedure for entering of a divorce may vary from county to county. That is very true. Contact your clerk of court or the family court if your county has one to determine if there are local rules, forms, and customs applicable to the county where you filed your divorce action. So we practice in 4 different judicial districts here. Every judicial district has a different way of doing it. In one county, you have to actually give a recitation of the process that you went through, that, you got to state to the judge your name, the spouse's name, the date you were married, the date you separated, that you've been separated for over a year with the intention of that separation to remain permanent. You have not resumed your marriage or marital relations. And then, the judge will then listen to that and grant you your judgment. Other counties, they will just take a motion for summary judgment. That means you present a motion showing that you're seeking a 1-year divorce based upon being separated for a year, that the defendant was served on the date that he was served, that the time for him to respond or to file a response to your complaint has passed, and he's either filed a response or he admitted to all the allegations, that and that as a matter of law, the divorce should be entered. And that time, generally you can hand that motion up with your package, with the documents that the judge will sign, and the judge will sign it. Again, you got to find out your local county rules. And this is a little bit more about testimonial divorce hearings. You got to wait at least 30 days from the date the defendant was served. On day 31 or after, you got to contact the clerk's office to determine what date your divorce hearing can be set. And then you need to fill out the following documents: notice of hearing, certificate of service. And it's important that you check with your local clerk of court to find out what specific processing forms are required in the county. Some counties have different things. Some have specific forms for when you want to set a matter for hearing. They'll have their own calendar court forms that you have to fill out. And we have 100 counties, and there's like 100 rules for the way they do their day-to-day business. So it's always best to check with the clerk where you're at to get this information to process the forms. You'll need 4 copies of any documents you are filing for a hearing before the judge, and then you need to send a copy of each document to the defendant by the United States mail. The hearing. All right. Bring at least 4 copies of the completed judgment of absolute divorce and the certificate of absolute divorce. They're in your guide and file package. Dress business casual. Arrive at least 15 minutes early. Sit on the bench and wait for your case to be called. When your case is called, approach the judge's bench, be sworn, affirmed, and take the witness stand. When testifying, speak slowly and clearly, and use your judgment of absolute divorce to guide your testimony. Most judges will do that. These are generally, especially if they're done on pro se days, or generally pretty laid back. The judge will ask you questions. And then this is a judgment for absolute divorce, and that should be part of your guide and file packet. Make sure you take 4 copies with you. If the judge grants your divorce, he may ask you for this so it can be signed in court. And then you have to mail a judgment of the absolute divorce on the date you indicated on the certificate of service to the defendant by U.S. mail. And that doesn't have to be certified mail. It can just be regular first-class U.S. mail. This is a certificate of absolute divorce or annulment, and this is actually not a court's form, but it's comes from the North Carolina Department of Vital Statistics. That's part of the NC Department of Health and Human Services, and it's just pretty simple to fill out. And the clerk will fill out the remainder of the form. So you just type in your name, like it's laid out here, and the clerk fills it out. After the hearing, the judge will determine if divorce should be granted after listening to your testimony and examining your pleadings. You got to send it to the defendant if they're not there. Make sure you complete the certificate of service for the judgment of absolute divorce. After your hearing, mail a copy of the judgment for absolute divorce to the defendant via U.S. mail. Keep a copy of the entered judgment for absolute divorce in a safe location with your other important papers. If your judgment included a provision for a name change, you may want to at least get 2 certified copies of the judgment of absolute divorce for Social Security and the DMV. And if you have any questions beyond this webinar, you can call 1-866-219-5262, or you can apply online at our website, legalaidnc.org. And I think that's the end of the slides.
Okay, perfect. And now we're going to open it up for questions. For anyone with their hand raised, please be aware that you cannot unmute in this forum, and you would need to type your question in the Q&A box on Zoom or the comment section on Facebook. Remember, we can only answer general questions. So we're just going to take a few moments just to see if any questions come in.
Oh, now that I read this, somebody asked me to slow down. Did everybody get that? Do I need to repeat anything? I'd be happy to do that if you have any questions.
Okay, we're still trying to see if there's some questions coming in. I did
Okay.
drop a link to some resources on the website as well.
Okay.
Okay, so it looks like we have a question here. If the defendant is in another county, do you contact the sheriff in that county?
Absolutely. If the defendant, let's say I live in Pitt County, and my wife, moved to New Bern with her new boyfriend, and it's been a year, and I've gotten over the heartbreak, I would have to send the paperwork to the Craven County Sheriff's office for them to serve, and they will do the service, and they will return it to the proper clerk of court's office.
Okay, it looks like another question about the Facebook link. I'll drop that in the chat here. Still waiting for any additional questions. Okay, another question here, David. It says, what does indigency proof qualify you for?
All that does is it qualifies you to file your paperwork without paying the court fees. Most of our clients that we represent are eligible for indigency. That's why we are here. So I don't really pay attention to what fees they charge and what the costs are, but I know you can find that on the NC Courts website at nccourts.org. They'll tell you what the filing fee is. I'm not sure what it is. I know, obviously, in the paperwork it said the sheriff fees are $30, but if you're filing as an indigent, they will waive that. So that's why you should have 2 copies of the petition of indigency, one to go in the clerk's file, and one for you to retain in the event you go to the sheriff's office and they're not going to serve it without the $30. You can show them that that fee has been waived by the clerk of court, and that's what it basically that's basically what it covers. You don't have to pay the costs of court.
Okay, the next question is, if serving the defendant in person and getting it notarized, would you still need to notify the sheriff?
No. If you are in a decent relationship with your former spouse or soon to be ex-spouse, and you can meet them, and they're willing. You can't really serve them by person. It has to either be the sheriff by certified mail, but if they have the paperwork and he's willing to waive service, and that means you don't have to serve him. It means he's just going to willingly accept it, and he signs that affidavit. That has to be signed in front of a notary and filed with the clerk, and that would be the date that he gets to serve the paperwork. So you would not need the sheriff at that time, nor do you need the sheriff if you're filing using certified mail or a designated delivery system.
Okay, so it looks like that was our last question, as I'm not seeing any more questions here. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us, and a special thanks to David for presenting. If you would like to review anything that we talked about today, we have posted the recording of today's event to our Facebook. It will be immediately available. You can access this with or without a Facebook account at www.facebook.com/legalaidnc. If you would like to register for one of our other Listen and Learn presentations, such as expunction, Medicaid, and Social Security, you can do so on our website, legalaidnc.com/clinics. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
And a great Easter for everybody else. And I guess Easter's 4/20, so enjoy.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.